Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle. You got Dean and Rob. Today we don't have a guest, but you got Dean and I talking about different things in business and marketing. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If this is your second, third, fourth, whatever time that you wanted to watch us do what we do, welcome back and thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. It means the world to us. But Dean, you got to sit down. You got to be able to talk to a couple data scientists that are on our team. And I saw you guys having a huge conversation. And if I was to guess, it's about behavior and their whole entire study that they're currently doing inside of the human behavior. So I'm going to let you take and open this one up.
Well, basically, the other day we were talking, and hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us, by the way. And I was talking with the guys, and they were saying, let's talk about human behavior, and let's talk about this lab that's in Vegas. I said, what are you talking about, this lab in Vegas? And we got talking about, because I'm all about what motivates people, what makes people tick. And I guess there's a whole behavioral science study that's going on, and it makes people, why do people get on slot machines? Why does this behavior happen? And we got into this whole thing of this mental loop that people do, where you talk about different things. You have the opportunity that's out there, and then you have a risk factor, and then you repeat it basically, and that's kind of how people do a lot of things with marketing. But what they're looking at is the art of gambling and why people do certain things. But I think it goes into more than just gambling. I think it's used in everything. We talked about the reptile brain. You call it what do you call it? The crocodile brain?
I call it the caveman brain or the reptilian brain.
Yeah. So basically, it's the basic instincts that make you do certain things, react to certain things. And let's kind of just jump into that. Let's kind of talk about that, because I see it on a lot of different things besides just gambling.
From a VC standpoint and things I get access to and see, it's not just casinos that are looking at how this behavior works. They're using it in a casino setting. So they have like this office building. I don't really know where it's located or where it is. I know it's in somewhere outside of Las Vegas.
Right.
And it is it's not open to the public. You have to be you're a subject that gets put there. It has hotel rooms. They're testing you for how you feel on the sheets, to how you react inside once you go down and eat a meal, to go through the casino, walking through the casino, there's all these things they tested. Now, it's not just casinos that are watching this or invested or paying for these studies. There's a lot of big corporations that are retail, advertising, marketing, a lot of data that comes out of that whole entire study. Now, we don't have direct access to that study, so I want to be very clear on that. But we do see different reports for what we watch on a data science piece of what those reports contain. Now, there was, I know I said we weren't going to name drop, but there was a whole entire episode done on Joe Rogan about this recently. Yeah, and he went through, talked about how all this behavior goes. But we use this behavior inside of marketing all the time. It's done inside of search, close wins, not having there. I know in the study there was a huge piece of when you're sitting down at a slot machine and you get, pineapple, and if you got that one more pineapple, you'd be winning the jackpot. And to where the machines are set up to where they throw these off at random every once in a while, because it keeps you entertained there. It's kind of like a false win, to where the machine goes off, says, hey, you won 50 cents, but you just bet $1. And you still lost 50 cents, but it says you won 50 cents.
Well,
it triggers the brain.
Well, it flows into more than just that. I mean, it's all the behavior. I mean, the opportunity has to be in front of you, and there's got to be some kind of reward. So that's going to make you do a certain action, and because there's going to be some kind of reward, it may be it's you don't know what the known reward is, but there's a chance you get some reward, and then if you decide you want to repeat it, then you loop back around and you start the process all over again. And that's really true. We're doing this podcast right now, and I actually follow that behavior. because I'll go, oh, let's see how many people watch this. And I go, hey, we had 50 people watch this in the first hour, and that's better than the last one we did. And so it's going to make us want to repeat this again, because there's a reward that we're seeing. We saw some kind of reward, the likes, this, whatever it is. And that happens on social media as well.
Agencies use that. And small businesses, marketing boards of Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies fall for this, because they'll come in and go, look how many likes we got. Look how many views we got. Look at all this. Look at this. And it's no different than that, because that machine going ding, 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 and the sound effects that happen from it and bringing you into it and what shows up. Man, I mean, if I could just get one more, if I get another 100 views, maybe I get 10 more sales. And the bottom line is, you want to be able to get sales in your door.
Right.
But when you have those and mixed into it, it kind of covers it up, and it brings you in to where you spend more money. That's why a lot of marketing agencies love reports, in my opinion.
Right. But it's no different than if you purchase an ad and you said, I had 50 people contact me, so I'm not doing this ad again. And so you had a reward of some kind,
Right.
that you said, oh, I'm going to repeat this. Well, the next time you may not get any. You say, oh, hold it. We got 50 the first time. We got 0 the second time. We're going to do this again. And that's how they get you into that routine, that cycle that keeps happening over and over again. And
Yes.
that's why so many businesses say, I keep doing this, and now I'm not getting the rewards aren't there. Well, we don't know what the reward is going to be. That's the part. That's the thing about advertising and marketing is you have to put yourself out there a little bit. You don't know what the reward is, but you see a potential reward, and then you repeat it again. And that's what they're all about.
So what I find really interesting about the whole study that's being done on the gambling piece is, I've done this for years. I love to go to Vegas. I love to go to casinos. I love to do that. Not necessarily to gamble. Yes, I like to gamble a little bit, but I gambled very little. But my dad had a gambling problem, and there was a lot of stuff that came from that. And my family has that tendency, and I watched them lose, and the house always wins. So I do it differently what they do, and I can walk away. And I take what I'm going to lose, or I have it to lose. What I like to do, though, is I like to sit. Now, I've done this since I was a little kid without even realizing I was doing it. I'd go and I'd watch the gambling happen in a casino. And what I was watching is I was watching how people interact, how the dealer interacts with people, how the reward systems work with the casino, how all that happens, how they place different machines. I'll talk to techs inside of Vegas, and I'll ask them why they put a machine in a certain spot. So there was a time I was at, I think it was at MGM. So I don't remember what casino we're at. It's an MGM property. And a guy was moving slot machines around. It was like 4:00 in the morning. And I may have had a couple drinks being in Vegas, but I walk up to the guy and I start talking to him. Everybody in my party's like, what the hell's Rob doing? I'm over and I'm talking. I'm asking, well, why? What makes you move it? And he started talking about the whole entire behavior that's inside of it, and how there's certain spots that'll make someone, more react, and how if they shift machines and make more money. But it's no different than how you get presented different stuff. You go and you search for XYZ inside of Google. Next thing you know, you're seeing, or even if you talk about it, because your devices are listening to you, next thing you know, you're seeing that product everywhere. This whole entire behavior has been learned. I think it's just easier to look at inside of the whole entire gambling piece, because everybody knows the house wins. House has an advantage over everybody, but people still go and they gamble.
And why? Because there's a possible reward.
Correct.
It might be a life-changing reward, but they're looking at the big reward.
Correct.
Really take that risk, and I think that's I mean, I've always looked at it that way. I've never quite thought of it the way the data science guys put it to me. I went, oh, that's a whole different approach to that. I like it, and then that's why we did the investigation and got into this more. But I think I've realized this, but I just have never put it into a quantitative or it's some kind of a written process, if you will.
Well, there's a study that I was reading and I was looking at the other day, and I was talking to a couple of data science guys that are on our team, and they were talking about this report. I read over it, and it basically it all goes back into this caveman, the crocodilian brain for, hunting. So we used to go out, we used to hunt for food. Now we didn't, and this is what fits into that gambling piece, fits into all those pieces, because we'd go out, we'd hunt for food. We didn't always come back with food.
Right.
So our brains were wired from the very beginning that you don't always get what you're looking for, but you might have gotten close. You might have saw that deer in the wild. You might have gotten close, got that fish on, but did not be able to get it closed. Then you get a small win. So you might get a win. So when we talk about the slot machine going up and being, pineapple, and not give you that next pineapple, and he came close. It was close right there. It's no different than going out. You got a hunt, and you got something. But it wasn't enough to feed everybody you needed to feed. But everybody got a little bit of food.
Right.
It's that same part of the brain that kicks in for that process.
Right. Let's take that to also, let's use that same analogy of fishing. You go out and you fish and you catch 10 fish out there. You have this bait and you go out and you catch 10 fish. That was great. I'm going to do that same process again because that reward was awesome. Do
Correct.
the exact same thing and you don't get anything the next time, but you're trying to make it so that you can get those rewards the easiest way that you can. I mean, the fastest way that you can.
And you might do that 5-6 days in a row until you have to go do something else, until something forces you to do it.
Right.
I see that right now inside of the world of marketing for pay-per-click. It used to work really well. Google ads did really well. Facebook ads did really well. Some people are still getting results, obviously, because they're still making money off of it. But most of the people I talk to go, hey, guess what? It's not working anymore. It used to.
But the thing is, they say that. Yeah, you okay?
I got all choked up over that, but I just got really emotional.
I am looking at you going, oh, are you okay? I'm not close enough to do CPR on you, so don't be doing anything on that.
I'm going down.
But the thing is, you do it, you get yourself cut, you do it once and it does really well for you, and you do it again and you do it again, and pretty soon it gets to be diminishing returns. And finally you say, do I want to keep doing that? So your behavior is going to have to change a little bit, and because you're still looking for the opportunity and the big reward. You always look for that big reward, but you have to change. If you're on this slot machine and you're not, you're there and you go, oh, I'm getting closer. That you may say, I might keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. But if you stepped over and did another machine, it might happen faster. So you got to change something up. I mean, if you will. But the thing is,
you have to go hunt in a different spot. You have to go fish
right.
a different pond or a different lake.
Exactly.
Or change your bait. Something has to change if you're not getting those same results. So I think that really fits into the marketing side. When I look at these studies that have happened inside of this lab, it's absolutely blows my mind. There's also another lab, Dean, that does a lot of stuff. It's the Science of People, I think. It's ran by Vanessa Van Edwards.
Yep, I've read her. I've listened to her stuff.
I haven't listened to any of her books yet, but I've listened to a lot of her podcasts because I'm on this huge podcast kick right now, and for how the brain and how people consume them. And you guys could guess why. I mean, we kind of do podcasts, so I'm trying to break into this, but she talks about different behaviors of people and what they do and all that different stuff. But she has some interesting studies as well. What studies have you noticed? Do you remember any of that she's done recently?
You know what? I really haven't. I'm just listening to the concepts. I'm not deep diving into anything, so I'm more conceptual.
Okay.
So, so I look at, so I'm sitting here, one of the things that she talks about, I'm in the power pose with my hand.
That's a behavioral piece.
Right. How do you position your hands? How do you talk with your hands? Do you acknowledge like you're nodding your head right now? I mean, that's all a behavioral thing. So if I'm doing something, I'm getting not head, getting head nods from you. Then I might keep doing that same behavior because I'm getting positive reaction back from you. If you're doing no, I'm going to change something up. So that's the kind of stuff that she looks at in the Science of People is, how do you react when, with your customer base? And it's not her, but that whole thing is you look for positive reinforcement of some kind, and you keep doing that same action because I did a cause and I got a reward, and so I'm going to repeat around it and do it again. So,
Well, she talks. So there was one study that she recently did that I was listening to, and I might get this totally wrong. So she listens, or one of her people listen. Tell me where I got it wrong. But she was doing a whole study that, of how people think and how to think of friends and how they position themselves. Because one big part for her is she has a hard time having friends because she's a human lie detector, being behavioral science. You could tell when someone's lying because you're tracking how they're behaving, what they're doing, if they're scratching their nose, if they're doing these different things, if they're nervous, if they're thinking, and you can get all the way down. So she was talking about how she, how to be able to tell if you have toxic friends or good friends or bad friends. And one of the big things is, are your friends excited for you? So think about, is your friend excited for you when something good happens to you that doesn't involve them? And if they share that same excitement, that ends up bringing it in. Well, I mean, that's where you have to think about it. Now, a lot of people are going now to AI to be able to get answers, and AI is constantly always on their good side. Why do they have AI do that? Well, you'll come back because it's not going to be negative to you. So you keep coming back to it. So it fits into that same piece. I look at this stuff and I start to put it together. I talk to the data team. We have some very detailed analytical conversations, but it's one of those things to where all of these things all aim all the way down into that crocodilian, that caveman day. Can a caveman understand it? Nobody wants to overthink anything. Nobody reads everything word for word anymore. They scan everything. It's changed the way marketing is working. But
Right.
yet, marketing is the same as it's always been for how the human processes information. I truly don't think humans were ever meant to see as many ads as we see in a day, how many marketing messages, and get as much information as we have. And I think that's part of our problem in the world.
Well, we have information overload is what I call it.
We do.
I opened up. I run several emails for different things, and I open up and I have 1,000 emails I get to go through first thing. That's my daily to do list. I look at, if I don't know who they are, and I don't have time, I just delete them. And so emails may work, but then again, so we go back to what I always talk about, being in market. I may have something on my brain and somebody's email came to me and I went, oh, that headline sounds like something I'm interested in, so I may open it. But the chances of everybody opening everything and looking at everything is slim to none for
but you have a chance.
Right.
So
right.
by you deleting my email, so let's think about that real quick. Let's talk email marketing.
Okay.
I'm repositioning, so I must be getting more ready to start to dive into
Yeah,
this.
I'm glad I'm not in the same room with you right now because you'd be coming across the table at me pretty quick.
So it's one of those things. Okay, so you delete that email off.
Right.
Okay, you don't unsubscribe from it. You don't report it as junk. You delete it.
Right.
That means I get to, as a marketer, have another opportunity with you.
Right. And you know what though? I subconsciously I do that because I may not be in the market right now, but I don't want to not lose track of. They may have something I may be interested in later, but I don't want to keep them in my brain.
Right.
So
I keep it's no different,
right,
than going to a lake, casting out, reeling in, casting out. Now, I might not have caught you that time. Your fish was there. You were looking at it. That bait looks pretty good. Yep. Nope, not today. Not interested. So you hit that delete button. You made that decision like this. So boom, didn't even look at it. Don't even know what it says. All you know is the subject. Right. Boom, deleted. But that means I get to change my bait at a different time and cast it out. And you might go, let's open that. Right. Now that one, that's another touch. So the first one was a touch because you saw it, you processed who it was from, processed whatever their headline was, didn't match. Next one, that's a touch as well. You might have opened that document. You might not have taken action on it. You might have went to the website, might have went and looked at stuff, anything about it. Phone rang, you did whatever, didn't do anything. But that third or fourth time, that next touch might be the time you're like, I really need that product right now. I have this need. I need to be able to do it. Boom. Then that becomes a sale.
Right. But it's no different than pulling that lever, or I guess they don't
No
pull
different.
it anymore. Pushing that button on the slot machine. I guess is what they do now. I don't play slots, so
But
but
you can pull the lever
okay, you pull
where
I don't
on some machines.
oh,
So it
they still
depends
have
on
that
what it is.
for the old guys like me that need to have that. Yeah,
When I started playing slot machines and playing that type of thing, you still had change.
yeah.
You
No,
carried your bucket around with you.
the quarter cups, man. Those cups.
Now, I
Anyway,
wasn't of age when I was doing that, but when I first started playing it, now
yeah.
there was also, there was also the whole entire poker side, and we had video poker machines in the basement of a store of
you're
ours.
taking me down a different rabbit hole right now. Let me go back to the email.
Go for it.
I almost called you that, but I won't do it.
You can call me a little shit. It's fine.
Anyway, but what you talked about is the email thing. It's still a loop process. I mean, we as humans do we always kind of do things in that process. The email went out. That was the action. You were hoping for a reward.
Yep.
You didn't get the reward. So then you repeat it. And how fast you repeat is dependent on your habit that you're in. So that changes a little bit.
Correct.
But you keep waiting for that big reward. That's why you keep getting them. That's why the phone calls that happen. Hey, your business profile is not optimized. I don't need click. Right. And then but they may get you may get those clicks, but then I got 15 minutes. I might hear what this guy has to say or this gal and see what they have to say about this, and then they may hook you and reel you in. So
I did it for a timeshare person yesterday, and I kind of felt bad about it, but I really don't. He calls, and I do because I know he didn't make any money by doing it, and that part is wrong. And I've been there. I've been that person on the other side of the phone in my past. I've never done timeshares, but for just sales in general. But I mean, I wanted to listen to his pitch. I wanted to see how he would hand me off. I wanted to see what their offers were. I mean, we started at a $1,200 package, and then we were down to $800. Then we were down to $200, and then we threw some extra vacations in. And next thing you know, we were up to $400. And until I went back and listened to my recorded call, I didn't realize he went as low as 200, and then he went up because he said, "I'll go 200." And then bounced it right over. My brain in the moment didn't pick it up until I reread it. Now, there's probably some kind of study or some kind of pattern that they've noticed that then triggers it to make my brain go, that's not too bad, $200. And next thing you know, wait, how'd we get there? Okay, never mind. We'll just do it. Because now I'm committed. Now my brain is there. And there's probably something inside of the human brain that causes that to happen for an effect. But if we're comparing anything to, slot machines, it's no different than if you sit down at one of these complicated slot machines, which I will not play, but has, all these lines to it. You have no idea the combinations it takes to win the game.
No, you don't, but you put your trust in the computer itself, the intelligence of that machine and the level of payback that they have it set at.
Correct.
And so you're playing it, so just like in marketing and sales, you're playing a statistics game. You have to do so many tries before you get a reward, and that but who knows? You may land that whale. I mean that we talk about that sometimes. Like, we talk to these groups, and all of a sudden this huge group comes in. You go, ooh, we got one. But how many times? But you may never get one of those. I've seen businesses that have gone their entire careers and they've never landed that, what I call the whale. That I steal that from Wall Street, I think was the movie. I got a whale. I think
Wolf on Wall Street.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think
that's where that came from.
Yeah, I landed a whale, and instead of just a little fish, you got to land the whale, kind of thing.
Right.
And that's what you're hoping for, and that's why you're willing to do the risk, do the action for that possible outcome, and then you repeat to try to do it again.
It's no different than the baseball analogy when people say they want to get singles versus doubles versus getting home runs. You're always looking for that home run. It's the same exact division. Now, the biggest thing with the marketing side is being everywhere gives you more opportunities. So if you're going to compare it to gambling or compare it to the casino logic for what that whole case study was, It's about being everywhere. So you're covering it. So you're covering all of those lines. So if something does hit, someone's on there looking for whatever product and services you sell, that's going to give you the opportunity to be able to get in front of them.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're going to necessarily close them, because it's just like the email piece we were just talking about. It might be just getting in front, it's soaked in. And I mean, if it's a B2B product more than B2C, phone rang, somebody needed something from me, but that happens inside of B2C too. If you talk about the mom brain of everything going on, and mom, or dad, whatever it might be from your kids, you get pulled away from stuff all the time. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm back over here. I'm back doing this. Now, the thing about search is you might search it again and you might get totally different results because you didn't pick something the first time around.
Well,
so that might give you a better opportunity, because you might come up further in search because they made a click on your website.
Right, but here's the deal. We talk about content, authority, and trust, our 3 pillars. We talk about them all the time. If you're not willing to put the actions in, and small business owners struggle with this, if you're not willing to put those actions in, you're not changing the fishing game, if you will. Somebody may do a search one day and you don't show up, but you put in some content which gives you authority and creates trust, be it a post, be it wherever you put in that information. If you're not willing to put that out there and change it up a little bit, your opportunity, your rewards may never change. And in fact, they may diminish because the house wins, and that's what happens sometimes, and it's, I know there's statistics involved, but you can, it's kind of like let's talk about Carney games for a second. I just thought about that. Remember, you go out there.
Step right up. We got something for you today. Get right here. We're talking about Carney.
Here you get the, I'm thinking about the pop bottle one where you throw the rings on it. That's an old Carney thing that used to come around. And you go, okay, if I throw a ring on there, I can get this reward. So I
either get a big stuffed animal, small stuffed animal, or I might end up with that goldfish.
Right, exactly. But the thing is, it's different, and this is how marketing be with content that for your business is you can have a skill set that you can add to that. You may have a better hand-eye coordination than the other person over here, and you're going to get there. So I just went there with my brain. Just went, oh, I haven't thought about that. So you can influence the outcome some by your skill level, by the information you're putting out there. You're still getting the ring on there. That there's still that.
I agree. I think that's a great analogy. Now I have a question for you. Now, I'd never thought about this until we just started having this conversation. We talk about instant satisfaction.
Right.
Everybody's looking for instant results. I made a change to my business. It's not out on the networks. Boom, right away. I sign up for a service, and boom, it's not instantly on there, and I'm not ranking number 1. We get that a lot.
Yeah, we do.
So Amazon has ruined the world for same-day delivery and everybody getting things right away. So how does the brain work for instant gratification, and how does that fit into the rest of it? Is that where the close wins come in, or what happens? What's your opinion?
Phew.
That's a hard one. That's a cool one, actually.
That's an expectation thing. I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, the rewards are still the same. It's a speed of the reward changes.
Is there a letdown on something that happens to the psych level? I'd love to be able to get somebody on that does human behavior, because I'd love to be able to talk about that. Because when you take away the instant gratification, so if you're not going to get the instant gratification of going out and getting that deer when you're a caveman and you don't have anything to eat, and you've been getting instant gratification the last 20 times, what does that do to the human brain? Does it cause? It could cause depression. It could cause all kinds of different things that happen, but it's a letdown. But it makes it harder for you to see the small opportunities and the small amount of touches that are happening, and it's a long-term game versus a short-term game.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about your analogy of the instant. I'm of an era where we used to write, letters a lot because phone calls were expensive. So you had long distance. I mean, back in the day, you had long distance phone calls.
Yep.
So you spent a letter because a letter cost
220.
What's that?
10, 220.
10, 10, 220.
Yeah, there used to be a whole thing. You dial at the very beginning of the number during the 90s. So when you made a long distance phone call, you dialed these certain numbers. You paid a subscription for being able to have a cheaper amount per phone call, so you weren't then paying your long distance fee. I still don't know how the hell that thing works.
I don't know either. Anyway, that was something else. But no, but you used to send a letter, and you would mail it, and you wouldn't get there for 3 days. And then, then they might write a letter back, and you get it back 3 days later. So you get a notification. I mean, we keep accelerating with the technology. Then when phone calls became deregulated and you didn't have long distance phone calls, you made the phone call because that was a quicker deal. But the problem is they weren't always on the other end. And you don't know if they got, that kind of thing. And then we went to emails. And so we keep accelerating the expectation piece. And so if you don't get something right away, what is that? It's kind of is it because of our fast pacedness of our lives is increased so much that we want that? Versus am I satisfied when I get that? But it's like when I get the new computer and I type in the commands and it's like boom, there it was. It's like, oh man, this is so fast until you got fast enough with the keyboard and the commands, and pretty soon the computer was slow again. Okay. Correct. So I don't know. I don't know what that does to the brain waves. Maybe endorphin. Is endorphins the word to make you happy? I don't know. I'm not a
endorphins.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it hurts you or helps you. But I do know that people get they almost go into a depression mode.
They do. That's why I said it causes depression inside of there because they're not getting there. So you have to be able to it's no different than playing the long-term game. So playing the long-term game, I guess, would be more like going from that slot machine, going back to the casino piece, and going over to play video poker. Because that is more of a long-term play versus a short-term play.
Right,
but yet it's not.
I don't know. I don't know. But the thing is, it's still the cause, the rewards, and repeat.
I guess you have to set your expectations to what it is, because it's not. I mean, if you're talking organic marketing, you're talking weeks now. Versus I used to tell you that it would take months. Now you're within weeks of being able to see results, but you have to be patient on it, and you have to be willing to do the work. And I think a lot of people inside of the human brain and inside of our society don't want to put in the work to be able to do it, and they want everything to be just given to them, and that creates a whole monster of itself too.
I used to have the mailing company, and people would say, I want to put a mailing out there with this coupon. The thing is, it took time to do that. I mean, you go, okay, like I want to put something out there right now. You can do an email campaign. You can put it together and send it out within 24 hours, probably, unless you have to go through, depending on what server you're doing, whatever. You may have to have an approval on the email campaign or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
Okay.
But
I can tell you haven't done anything with email.
I don't do email campaigns because it's not effective for my businesses. I mean, they don't work the same.
But that's a whole different.
I don't know. I did. I take it back. I did one email campaign. All guys, people bitching, so I won't do that.
Where is that?
I don't do well with criticism. What are you sending me this for? Stop sending me this stuff. But even if you're doing a mailing with a coupon, it isn't instant. When it gets sent out, the response time is within a few days. But it takes time for you to put together your copy, create the printed coupon, and then mail it out. And so
if you're going to mail pack, it's the same way. I mean, you have to wait for the design team. Then you have approval process. It's not instant that same day.
Right. So it still takes 2 to 3 months to even get that. But once you get it going, I mean, and then you say, I want to repeat it. So there may be a reward, but you have to commit to these things and say, I'm going to try it 4 or 5 times. And you're hoping for a big reward. And that first one may be 0. It may be a big reward. And you go, oh, coupons work great. Well, coupons work okay for some businesses. They work great for other businesses. It's just like any kind of advertising or marketing. But in the digital organic search, it works for everybody all the time, no matter what industry you're in. I mean, the coupon piece is because people have, let's use like restaurants. People have to eat every day. And so the rewards are different for doing that kind of advertising for restaurants than if you're a roofing company, because roofing people, they don't replace stuff unless there's something broken, kind of thing, So it's not complex, but it can get complex really quick when you start putting the external factors that may affect how people make decisions.
There's a lot of external factors that make people do things, and I think that's where we have to be as business owners. We have to step back. We have to look at being able to set it up, because even those short-term wins that are out there and those little wins that you're making some money on, say you're inside of your tree on your branches, you have social media, you've got ads, you got all that stuff going, you're getting those short-term wins. By building up your organic and building up your long-term, it's going to, for one, usually reduce down how much you're depending on that. You're getting yourself everywhere, so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, and you're being able to spread yourself out to where you're going to be okay during, no matter what it's going to help you during no matter what the market's doing. So no matter if we're in a recession, if we're not, there's a lot of value to being able to have that organic base. And you might not need that organic base today. You might have enough business. You might have enough leads. You might have enough everything, which if you have enough of everything, you're probably not listening to the huddle, but you might be. But it's one of those things to where when you do need it, you're set up. You have your base,
right?
Which means it's going to be faster for you to be able to react and make that come in. It's no different than somebody, having a business and 90% of their business comes from one provider. If that provider leaves you, you're screwed. Right. So you have to think about, what is my long-term play inside of business, and how am I going to make sure I'm okay no matter what happens?
Right. And I have one of my other businesses, we have a rule that no one customer is more than 30% of our gross sales ever. Because I've been there. I landed a whale, and they were 75%, and then a merger and acquisition happened, and I lost it all in a day. So, yep. So that's what can happen if you put all your eggs in one basket. In the digital marketing world too, is if something happens and they change what they're doing or how people are doing certain, like Google's still a big person out there. Google may not be in 2 weeks. I'm not making that prediction, but the thing is you don't know. So that's why you can't put everything just on one search engine or one network, if you will.
So if you look at Google, last year they were at 60% of market share, or whatever they were,
right?
60 to 70%. And you look at the study that just came out for a couple of weeks ago, that was 18.5%. That's a huge jump in reduction.
Right.
And if you were just relying on certain keywords, it's no different than when Google puts out an update. You might be ranking organically great, and they put out an update, or your Google business profile is ranking for whatever reason, and all this stuff. They put out that update. Next thing you know, it takes you off the market. Well, If you're not working with somebody watching for that and making sure that you're stacked up, you can lose market share like that. And then the phone stops ringing. I've seen that kill businesses overnight.
Right. No, we've both seen that happen. But different factors, it isn't necessarily, something changed and affected them overnight, and then they were scrambling and they weren't in a position to get their feet back underneath them, and they never did. They don't recover sometimes.
Correct. And then a lot of times they don't have enough. So I don't want to be mean to most business owners, but they're so locked into what they've been doing and for what's working. And going back to those gambling studies, they're so locked in, they're not seeing all the trees in the forest and understanding that other trees are falling down just like they are. And there's a few that are standing up and being able to look and see, why are those still standing?
Yeah. So this is going to sound horrible, but I look forward to recessions sometimes.
I love recessions.
Why? Because my business is solid. It's been there. I mean, I've got a good foundation. I got a good root system. I'm going out there. It gets rid of all the people that are not doing that are hurting their industry, that aren't doing a good job, kind of thing. So,
and like I've said, I was born during a recession or right after recession. I've started businesses usually recessions. This is gonna be the first one where I didn't start one for a recession, but we originally started it for the whole point of voice search, but our whole entire marketing campaign was based on there being a recession happening, and COVID killed that off, and it changed a lot.
Yeah,
then we had AI come out. I mean, if we would have had narrow vision goggles on and not looking at the big picture, we would never be where we are today.
Oh, absolutely not. And the thing is, though, is we predicted a recession coming, and COVID changed that whole dynamic. And I still think that it's still affecting some things the way recessions are going to happen and lengths of them and stuff, because people become more dependent on devices. So the people that are positioned well, when a recession happens, you're going to be seen better without having to spend a lot of money. I mean, it takes money to get yourself out there. I'm not saying, well, it takes some effort, in the form of your time or cash flow to get yourself out there. But if you're not positioning yourself well, you're not going to survive it. And recessions happen, and it takes time for you to get out there. And if you're not in a position to be seen, then you're not going to be. What am I trying to say?
You're going to be left behind.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word.
If you're not creating the opportunities,
right,
be able to stay in front of it, and you're not putting yourself everywhere and having everything warmed up, I guess would be a way to say it, to where you're on all the different networks, you're posting out to everything, you're using the social media suite, you're going out to as many networks as you possibly can. So you're doing this whole piece. You're giving yourself opportunities no matter. So that way you're not just in one spot with that lure, hoping that fish comes and takes a bite, and you're able to spread yourself out. So that's going to give you more opportunities. And if one of those falls off, you already have another one that might come up warmed up, or it might be something totally new as well.
Right.
But it gives you that opportunity to where you're not relying on just one place where your customers are finding you.
Right.
I think that's a big piece.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people try to overcompensate if they're not in a good position, and they get that false win or that false reward. They may do ads, and they go, oh, I landed 3 closings, but it cost you $5,000. What would you make on it? I made $500 on it. That's that false reward thing that we talked about, the false wins that happen. You think that you're doing well, but you need to really pay attention. It's a whole different thing, but you got to pay attention to cost per closing too, and what your profit margin is, because you'll get lost in that really fast.
You can. I mean, the whole entire piece, you can't see it behind me. I mean, that's my whole entire daily report that comes in. How many new members, YouTube stats, how many new subscribers, what were the watch hours, what were the impressions, what were the click-through rates. I keep a track on what each of those pieces are inside of our business. I watch that for our members when I'm looking at stats. There's different stats that we're able to pull up. Those stats give us okay, what's the trends? What's all this stuff? It allows our data team to be able to work through that. But then you have to look at on the picture we can't see. So if you're using us, you're not getting more sales, not getting more phone calls, not generating more leads, or you're not seeing movement, you have to communicate with your coach and say, I'm not seeing this, because we can't see that side of the picture.
Right.
We can look at stats all day long, but we don't have any stats that say all the rest.
Right. Well, we can't see what your winnings are, if you will.
We have no idea.
No, none. So
I mean, we're not able to track that at all. So it's one of those things to where if you're a member, keep that in mind. Make sure you're talking to your coach and communicating and saying, this is where I am. This is where I think this is. This is how I think it's working.
Yep. I don't have anything. I mean,
I was going to say, I think this is pretty much, I think we did pretty good on destroying this one out.
Yeah.
And kind of capturing, I think it's a very interesting study for all that happened. I'd love to. I don't remember the guy's name that was on Joe Rogan.
I would love to see the data points, but of course that's not public information.
I'm sure they're selling for a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure there is,
and I'm sure they're keeping them kind of close because I mean that's how they design machines. That's how some of these big corporations are doing stuff. There's some mad money inside of that whole thing. So,
right, yeah.
But if you're not a member of ours and you're not getting out there, you're not building up your organic piece. We talk about the organic tree all the time, and that's your root base with where all your listings are. Our listings engine works with over 1,000 different networks. You have the website piece. Yes, you can ask us to do a website, but we don't really advertise it. But you have that website piece. You don't have to get it with us. That is the tree trunk of your thing. And then you have the branches at the very top, which is social media, blog, and all the different networks that could be out there. So we do have the social media suite. If you are interested in learning how to get yourself out there on more networks, we have the right tools for you to do it. And the biggest thing is Dean and I handle 100% of the coaching ourselves. and a support. So if you have any questions, hit us up on simplybefound.com. We'd love to see your questions, your thoughts. And if you ever want to join us on the show, we'd love to have you. Any last words, Dean?
Just one thing, guys. We handle all the responses, but we have a team that helps us.
Yep.
So
we have a major team behind us.
Yeah, it's not just you and I, but it's our team, but we're the faces of this company, if you will.
Correct. And that allows us to keep the temperature of what's happening, so we can direct the team on what to do. And they might do your reports, they might do that, but we also we look at every single report before it goes out.
Exactly. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that it's just not these two little pea brains that are that are doing everything.
They can't even stay on one topic inside of a huddle. Why would I trust them?
It's like, okay, anyway,
I gotta go.
That's pretty quick here. So anyway, Rob, thanks for that conversation, man.
Yep, thank you. Have a great day.